This young boy endured a cycle of violence every single day of his life. Without a father to shield him, he was at the complete mercy of his ruthless peers. Each encounter left him battered and barely able to walk back to his mother. His mother would heal his wounds with tears in her eyes, unaware of how deep the scars truly went. One fateful afternoon, the bullying escalated into something far more lethal. A massive boy pinned Yang to the cold ground so he couldn't even struggle. They plunged poisonous needles into his flesh, watching with glee as the toxin spread. His eyes quickly filled with blood as the poison ravaged his internal organs. They left him to die in the middle of nowhere, certain he would never rise again. Hours passed while Yang lay paralyzed, the rain starting to soak his broken form. Death felt like a creeping shadow, but the thought of his mother kept his soul anchored. He begged the heavens for just enough strength to protect her and live a normal life. A massive strike of thunder tore through the sky, and a sword fell from the heavens right before him. Despite the agony, the blade felt strangely and utterly familiar to his touch. The moment his fingers closed around the handle, a flood of ancient memories burst into his mind. He remembered training with this very blade for 100 years in a past life. He had mastered every movement, reaching the zenith of a true sword god. Now that his past powers were reclaimed, he would finally secure the normal life he craved. The next morning, his mother was shocked to see him preparing to leave the house again. He gave her a gentle smile, assuring her that nothing bad would happen ever again. Meanwhile, the bullies waited by a tree, wondering if their victim had succumbed to the poison. They laughed at the thought of beating him even more thoroughly if he dared to show his face. One of them suddenly announced that their target was finally approaching from the distance. Yang faced them with a blank expression, showing none of the fear he once felt. The bullies noted he looked strangely unharmed and asked if yesterday's beating wasn't enough. Acting like a complete Chad, Yang claimed that such petty attacks would never hurt him again. Enraged by his audacity, the lead bully clenched his teeth and prepared for a violent strike. A female bully joined in, questioning if they should double the dose of poison this time. The lead bully shouted at Yang for not paying attention and threw a direct punch at his face. In a flash of speed, Yang placed a hand on his face and slammed him into the earth. The other bullies were stunned to see their strongest member knocked down in a single hit. Yang reminded them that there was no reason he couldn't do exactly what they could. He began walking toward them, emitting an aura so strong that even the hardened bullies recoiled. One bully tried to convince himself it was just a fluke and lunged with a sharp knife. Mid-air, Yang caught the hand and broke the weapon as if it were made of glass. He declared that if this was the level of the competition, the clan leader's seat was already decided. Meanwhile, in the clan council room, elders were meeting to finalize the participants for the leadership trial. One elder proposed excluding Yang, calling him a burden with no martial achievements. Suddenly, the doors slammed open, and Yang entered dragging a battered bully behind him. He made it clear that he had endured enough suppression and intended to fight for his rightful place. The council members were horrified by this unprecedented sight of rebellion and power. He suggested they check the open ground outside, where the rest of his bullies lay defeated. He was simply following the family rule of repaying kindness twofold and revenge tenfold. The head elder clenched his fist in rage, but eventually had to acknowledge the boy's proven worth. He declared that Yang would participate, but warned that failure would carry a deadly price. Back at home, his mother listened to his plan with a heart full of both fear and pride. Yang looked into her eyes and vowed to eliminate anything that dared to disturb their ordinary life. Little did they know, dark forces were already gathering in the shadows to end the Tang lineage forever. The heavy doors of the Tang clan's council chamber groan as Yang strides inside with cold determination. The elders sit in a semicircular high bench, their faces etched with shock at his sudden intrusion. He drags the unconscious bodies of his former bullies across the polished stone floor like discarded sacks. Dropping the bullies at the elders' feet, he stares directly into the eyes of the Grand Elder. One elder slams his fist onto the table, demanding an explanation for this unprecedented violence. Yang speaks in a low voice, reminding them that the Tang family rule is to repay revenge tenfold. He declares his intention to enter the young clan leader competition, a right his lineage entitles him to. The elders whisper among themselves, plotting how to handle the sudden return of the trash they once ignored. To prove his worth, he releases a burst of emerald green internal energy that rattles the windows of the hall. The Grand Elder stands up, realizing the boy has reached a level of cultivation thought impossible for his age. Yang explains that he will cleanse the clan of those who only know how to bully the weak. Reluctantly, the Grand Elder signs the official scroll, granting him entry into the lethal tournament. Yang takes the scroll, his path toward the throne of the Tang clan finally open. He returns home to find his mother, her eyes filled with a mixture of pride and terror for his future. He takes her hands and promises that no one will ever dare to look down on her again. The next morning, he begins a grueling training regimen to refine his sword god techniques. Every movement is a lethal dance of precision, recalling a century of past life expertise. His young body struggles to contain the massive amount of internal energy he is forcing through his meridians. He pushes through the agony, knowing the competition will be a battle to the death. From the shadows, the Grand Elder's spies watch his every move, reporting back his terrifying progress. The elders decide to change the rules of the competition at the last minute to ensure his failure. They announce that the first stage will take place on the treacherous Gangdong Mountain. The mountain is home to poisonous beasts and deadly illusions designed to kill the unwary. Yang packs his few belongings, his face a mask of calm confidence despite the warnings. His mother gives him a small jade pendant, a memento from his father he never knew. He steps out into the clan square where the other participants look at him with a mix of fear and hatred. A cousin from a branch family mocks him, claiming a peasant like him doesn't belong here. Without looking, Yang catches a flying needle launched from the crowd with just 2 fingers. He crushes the needle into dust, silencing the entire square in a single second. The journey to Gangdong Mountain begins, a long march through a dense, unnerving forest. Strange sounds echo from the shadows, making the weaker disciples reach for their weapons. Yang senses a trap, the air growing thick with a faint, sweet-smelling poison. Suddenly, massive wolves with glowing red eyes leap from the undergrowth, attacking the group. Chaos erupts as the disciples scatter, their cries for help echoing through the trees. Yang stands his ground, drawing his blade in a single fluid motion that leaves a trail of green light. He carves through the wolves with a speed that defies human perception, each strike finding its mark. He saves a young girl from the jaws of a beast, his presence acting as a beacon of hope for the survivors. As the remaining wolves flee, the disciples look at Yang with a new, terrified respect. They finally reach the foot of Gangdong Mountain, where a massive stone gate guards the ascent. Yang notices a hidden symbol on the gate that doesn't belong to the Tang clan. He realizes the unorthodox sect has already infiltrated the competition grounds to sabotage the results. A horn sounds from above, signaling that the first stage has officially begun. The disciples rush forward, but a sudden landslide traps half the group at the entrance. Yang leaps over the falling debris, his eyes fixed on the path to the summit. As he climbs, the mountain path seems to shift and change, a sign of the Joggle family's formation. He hears a scream nearby and finds a fellow disciple trapped in a cage of solid iron vines. Instead of a sword, he uses a specialized poison to dissolve the vines, freeing the grateful boy. The boy warns him that the elders have hired assassins from the Dark Moon sect to kill him personally. Yang smiles grimly, his hand tightening on the hilt of his legendary blade. Suddenly, the mist thickens and a shadowy figure appears ahead, holding a weapon that hums with dark energy. The assassin launches a wave of black needles that seem to move with a mind of their own. Yang spins his sword, creating a shield of green light that deflects the dark needles into the cliffside. He leaps forward, closing the distance in a single bound, his blade aimed at the assassin's heart. The assassin blocks with their own blade, the impact sending a shockwave that clears the mist for miles. To his horror, Yang recognizes the face behind the mask, an old ally he thought was dead. The figure smiles cruelly before vanishing into a cloud of smoke, leaving behind a map of the clan's inner sanctum. Yang picks up the map, realizing the conspiracy goes far deeper than he ever imagined. He hears the sound of thousands of footsteps approaching the mountain from the other side. The unorthodox sect has launched a full-scale invasion while the clan's strongest warriors are distracted by the competition. Yang stands at the precipice, realizing he must choose between winning the title and saving his mother from the coming slaughter. 1 month of intense preparation passed as Yang focused entirely on fortifying his physical vessel and stabilizing his internal chi paths. He understood that even with the memories of a sword god, his young 12-year-old body required meticulous cultivation to hold such immense power. By balancing on a single finger, he tested the weight of his own existence, feeling the gravity shift as his meridians slowly cleared. The day of the competition finally arrived, and the atmosphere at the Tang clan main house was thick with anticipation and hidden malice. Yang bid his mother a confident farewell, promising to return not just as a survivor, but as the master of his own fate. Upon reaching the gathering point, he was immediately confronted by a group of arrogant disciples who still viewed him as the clan's weak link. While they spewed insults, Yang simply continued to eat his rice cake, completely unfazed by their posturing. With a flick of his wrist, he launched a half-eaten rice cake with the force of a bullet, striking the leader of the bullies squarely in the face. The bully collapsed as if struck by a heavy iron hammer, leaving his companions frozen in utter confusion and fear. Tang Juki arrived to witness the aftermath, finding Yang sitting atop a literal pile of defeated disciples, while still finishing his snack. The Grand Elder soon appeared on the stage, delivering a decree that sent ripples of terror through the gathered youths. He announced that the competition would no longer be standard duels, but a goo poison match, where only the strongest would survive the culling. Far away, the Dark Moon Sword sect received word of the competition, viewing the Tang clan's future heirs as vulnerable targets to be picked off. Their leader, McKinhu, decided to track the carriages and wait for the perfect moment to deal a fatal blow to the Tang family. The journey to Gangdong Mountain began, with the participants divided into groups and led by stern instructors through the wilderness. They eventually reached a dead end at a massive rock face, where a figure from the Jagal family stepped out from the very stone itself. Jagal Chengen, a master of formations, introduced himself as their guide into the hidden training grounds. As they entered the cliff, the children were awestruck to find a lush, hidden paradise tucked away behind the illusionary rock. However, the beauty was short-lived as Jagal Chengen suddenly vanished, leaving the children trapped within the seven-lock phantom dome. Yang stood perfectly still, closing his eyes to sense the flow of the formation's energy, rather than relying on his sight. Outside the dome, Jagal Chengen smirked, confident that no child could escape his family's supreme technique without assistance. Inside, Murio and the others began to argue in fear, but Yang silenced them by drawing a small dagger and stepping toward the empty air. He identified the critical node of the illusion, the eye, where the energy was most concentrated and vulnerable. With a single, precise strike, he plunged his blade into the air, and the reality around them began to shatter like glass. Jagal Chengen felt the backlash of the formation's destruction, stumbling back as the rock wall behind him physically cracked open. Yang stepped through the fissure, his eyes glowing with a predatory light as he loomed over the trembling formation master. He sarcastically thanked the instructor for marking the entrance, leaving the man speechless and shaking with fear. The supervisor for the competition, Tang Wanjin of the Bongi Brigade, watched this display with intense curiosity and growing respect. Wanjin explained that the Bongi Brigade was the elite military force that once served Yang's mother, the Poison Phoenix. Yang, however, was less interested in history and more interested in the quality of his accommodations during the training period. He boldly requested to sleep in the manor instead of the forest, claiming that proper nutrition and rest were essential for his growth. Wanjin agreed to the request, but only on the condition that Yang pass a test of skill that would humble any ordinary disciple. The test was simple yet deadly. Yang would be blindfolded and must dodge or block a barrage of hidden weapons from all directions. He stood motionless as dozens of specialized Tang weapons were launched simultaneously, whistling through the air with lethal intent. With a single, lightning-fast motion of his dagger, he utilized the attachment principle, creating a vortex of energy that neutralized every attack. The weapons were not just blocked, they were attracted to his blade and then dropped harmlessly at his feet, leaving the spectators in stunned silence. Removing his blindfold, Yang asked if he had passed, his voice completely level, as if he had just performed a minor chore. He further demanded that meat be included in every meal, teasing the other trainees who were forced to survive in the harsh forest. While his teammates struggled to hunt bears and find shelter, Yang spent his time mastering the current flow eyes to refine his technique. He developed a new devastating move called the Whirling Line Frenzy Dance, using spinning rings to neutralize dozens of armored warriors at once. After 4 months, his teammates returned from the forest, stronger but still lagging far behind the monster Yang had become. Yang was officially appointed as the team leader, but his focus was already shifting toward the true battle that lay ahead. Unknown to him, Tang Rayong had survived her previous humiliation and was now armed with the clan's forbidden 10th poison. As the goo poison match officially commenced, the air itself seemed to turn toxic, with the promise of blood and betrayal. Yang realized the Jagal family had manipulated the formation, and he was now surrounded by hundreds of hidden invaders from the Dark Moon Sword sect. The training ground of the Gangdong Mountain stronghold was a place of iron and blood. Tang Wanjin stood before the young disciples with a look of absolute authority. He explained that the Bongi Brigade was the elite force that once served the Poison Phoenix. Yang stood relaxed, picking his nose as if the legendary brigade meant nothing to him. The other disciples watched in shock, unable to believe his sheer audacity. Yang asked the instructor if he could live in the comfortable manor instead of the forest. Wan Jin challenged him, stating that comfort must be earned through a test of skill. The test was simple: survive a rain of hidden weapons while blindfolded. Warriors of the Bongi Brigade surrounded him from the trees, cliffs, and ground. At a signal, dozens of blades were thrown from every possible direction. Yang stood completely still, his senses expanding far beyond his physical sight. He drew his dagger and executed the attachment principle of the sword god. Every single blade was caught in his energy field and neutralized instantly. Wan Jin couldn't comprehend how a 12-year-old possessed such mastery. Yang removed his blindfold and asked if he could have meat with his dinner. While the other disciples struggled in the forest, Yang moved into the manor. He spent his nights meditating, refining his twisted chi paths with ancient methods. 4 months passed, and his body began to transform into a perfect vessel for power. His teammates returned from the forest, hardened and significantly stronger. They found Yang waiting for them, looking taller and more mature than before. He jokingly called them cuties, which immediately reignited their rivalry. It was time for the next stage of their training, group combat exercises. Yang was surrounded by dozens of armed warriors from the Bongi Brigade. At the command to begin, the warriors rushed in with blinding speed. Yang vanished from their sight, reappearing in the air above them. He unveiled his new technique, the whirling line frenzy dance. The rings transformed into spinning blades, carving a chaotic path through the air. The elite warriors were neutralized in an instant, their skin barely nicked by the blades. Yang explained that he had mastered the current flow eyes to see perfect trajectories. Meanwhile, instructor Jagal Chang was secretly meeting with a shadowy figure. They planned to eliminate Yang before he could become a threat to their interests. Back at the manor, Yang's friend Ajin was obsessively creating a new poison. Yang took the vial and drank the lethal poison as if it were wine. Ajin watched in horror, expecting him to collapse and die instantly. Yang merely burped, revealing that poison was like an elixir to his body. He was using the poison refining madness technique to convert toxins into internal energy. Far away, a young girl with a disfigured face trained with a terrifying black smoke. She was Tangyong Rayong, and she vowed to destroy Yang in the coming match. The day of the Gu Poison match finally arrived, and the air was thick with tension. Wan Jin announced that the rules had changed. Only one survivor would be allowed to return. Yang looked at the hundreds of participants and realized the true slaughter was about to begin. Suddenly, he felt a strange presence behind him that shouldn't have been there. Shadows moved in the mist as the first of the Dark Moon Sword Sect assassins revealed themselves. Shadows shifted within the dense forest mist as the first of the Dark Moon Sword Sect assassins revealed their murderous presence. Tang Yang did not flinch, his eyes glowing with a faint emerald light that pierced through the gloom. Without a word, the masked invaders lunged forward, their blades coated in a viscous black poison that shimmered in the moonlight. Yang exhaled a steady breath, shifting his weight into a stance he had perfected over 100 years in his past life. The first assassin reached him, only to be met with a strike so fast it appeared as nothing more than a blur of green light. The invader's body was thrown backward, crashing through a thick oak tree as if hit by a falling star. Sensing the shift in power, the remaining 30 assassins surrounded him in the Charan formation, attempting to trap him in a cage of steel. A low, cold chuckle escaped Yang's lips as he realized the insignificance of their coordinated efforts. He unleashed his internal energy, the sheer pressure causing the ground to sink and the nearby trees to bend outward. The assassins were blown back like autumn leaves in a hurricane, their formation shattered in a single heartbeat. Yang began to move, his figure flickering across the battlefield like a ghost in the machine. Every time his sword flashed, another assassin fell, their armor failing to stop his transcendent blade. From the canopy above, the Dark Moon sect leader Machinhu watched in growing horror at the annihilation of his elite troops. Machinhu drew his twin black sabers, the air around him freezing as he channeled his forbidden frost chi. He descended like a predatory bird, his blades aimed directly at the back of Yang's neck. Yang simply tilted his head to the side, the twin blades missing him by a hair's breadth. He caught one of the sabers with his bare hand, the dragon scale aura protecting his palm from the razor-sharp edge. With a sharp twist of his wrist, Yang shattered the high-grade steel as if it were fragile glass. Machinhu roared, launching a desperate barrage of palm strikes that sent waves of frost towards the boy. Yang met the cold with his own fire dragon venom, the heat of his energy evaporating the ice before it could touch his skin. "You are not worthy of my sword," Yang declared, his voice carrying the weight of a god's judgment. He reached into his sleeve and produced 10 emerald rings, letting them hover in the air around his fingers. As he flicked his hand, the rings transformed into spinning blades of pure chi, whistling through the air with lethal precision. The whirling line frenzy dance began, the blades shredding the environment and any remaining assassins in a chaotic storm of metal. Machinhu stood alone amidst the carnage, his robes tattered and his spirit broken by the display of divine power. Yang walked toward him slowly, his footsteps heavy with the intent to end this long-standing grudge. Reaching for a hidden poison needle, Machinhu attempted one final act of cowardice to save his life. Yang's fingers moved like lightning, catching the needle out of the air before it could even leave the sect leader's hand. He plunged the needle into Machinhu's own neck, watching as the black poison instantly turned the man to stone. "May you find peace in the hell you created," Yang whispered, turning his back on the petrified corpse. The high-intensity battle had drained his internal reserves, and he felt the weight of his young body beginning to sag. A rustle in the nearby bushes caught his attention, and he instinctively drew a small dagger. His teammate Yuri emerged from the foliage, her eyes wide with shock as she took in the scale of the massacre. "Yang, you're alive!" The elders said the sect was lost, she cried out, rushing to his side. He gently pushed her back, his expression turning grim as he remembered the elders' betrayal. The Dark Moon was just the beginning. The real rot lies within the Tang clan elders themselves, he stated firmly. They began the journey back to the main hall, passing the remains of the Gu Poison Arena, which was now a ghost town. As they approached the gates, he noticed the banners of the Joggle family flying alongside the Tang clan crest. "They are here to scavenge the remains of our home," Yang muttered, his hand returning to his sword hilt. Just as he reached the entrance, the air rippled with a distortion technique, revealing a figure that shouldn't have been there. After the slaughter at Gangdong Mountain, Tang Yang stood amidst the dissipating formations with a cold, piercing gaze. He felt the immense power of the fire dragon poison fully integrated into his core, solidifying his transcendence. Without wasting a moment, he led the remnants of Group 7 and the Bongi Brigade back toward the Tang clan's main estate. Upon reaching the gates, the guards trembled as they witnessed the sheer pressure emanating from the boy who was once a victim. Yang bypassed the greeting parties and headed straight for the Medicine King Hall, sensing the corruption within. He kicked open the doors of the hall, finding the current chief Tengil, celebrating his presumed influence. Tengil sneered at the boy, unaware that the world outside the mountain had already changed. Yang demanded the immediate release of Ajun's grandfather, his voice echoing with the weight of a master. Tengil signaled his guards to attack, hoping to bury the young lord before the elders could intervene. With a single sweep of his hand, Yang unleashed a barrage of needles that paralyzed the guards instantly. Tengil fell from his seat, realizing his private army was nothing more than paper in the face of a true monster. Yang located the hidden mechanism leading to the underground Noyak cells, where the former leader was kept. Descending into the damp darkness, he found the elderly man shackled and poisoned to the brink of insanity. Using his unique poison devouring technique, Yang touched the man's chest to extract the toxins. The old man's skin returned to a healthy hue as he gasped for air and regained his senses. Emerging back into the hall, Yang declared the current chief a traitor and ordered his execution. The Bongi Brigade showed no mercy, swiftly ending the corruption that had plagued the medicine hall for years. With the internal purge complete, Yang summoned the entire clan to the main ancestral hall. He took his place at the head of the table, facing the remaining elders who were still stunned by his return. He presented the heads of the Dark Moon invaders and the evidence of the Grand Elder's betrayal. The elders, seeing his power and the loyalty of the elite troops, knelt one by one in submission. However, Yang shocked the room by declining the position of clan leader for himself. He declared that the clan required a leader who understood both poison and compassion, as his father did. From the shadows of the entrance, his mother, Tang Jihe, stepped forward in regal robes. The warriors who had once abandoned her now wept as they recognized the poison phoenix had returned. Yang handed her the ancestral seal of the Tang clan, symbolizing the transfer of power. She accepted the seal, her eyes misting as she looked at the son who had restored her dignity. The hall erupted in cheers as the announcement of the new clan leaders spread throughout the city. Later that evening, Yang Yang sat on the roof of his childhood home, finally finding peace. He looked at the legendary sword resting beside him, its emerald light pulsing softly. His mother joined him, sitting quietly as they watched the flickering lights of the restored clan. She thanked him for fulfilling his promise to protect their normal life. Yang Yang replied that this was only the beginning of their clan's true golden age. The bullies had been dealt with, the sect purged, and the future was finally theirs to write. He realized that being a sword god was not just about the blade, but about the people he protected. Ijin and the others joined them soon after, laughing as they shared stories of their training. The bond they forged in the fires of competition had become the foundation of the new guard. As the sun began to rise on a new day, the shadows of the past were finally erased. Tang Yangyang stood tall, no longer a bullied boy, but the protector of the Tang legacy. His journey was complete, and the legend of the sword god would live on for generations to come.